Did you scream when Rune Hergots was caught 10 meters before the line?
Yes.
Will Tim Merlier be part of Soudal Quickstep's Tour de France squad?
No.
Are you more excited for Tour de Suisse than Critérium de Dauphiné?
Yes.
I've got the spots, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.
After 3 intense weeks of racing at Giro d'Italia, the short period of rest is over. Critérium de Dauphiné is running at full speed, so it's time for a new Domestique Cycling Podcast episode. Besides a small racing review, we'll talk about sponsor moves in the peloton, and unfortunately, about some doping news as well. Yeah, it's a miracle, we know, but our most loyal Domestique didn't make it to today's episode. That means no Yves, but Bram and Dieter will share their thoughts on these matters. Bram, are you recovered from Giro d'Italia and ready for another chapter of this cycling season?
Yeah, to be honest, after the Giro, I needed a little bit of a break. I said that last week as well. It started to come through where I'm looking forward to racing again. The Dauphine sort of kickstarted it, but the Tour de Suisse is gonna take that crown.
And why Tour de Suisse, Bram?
Oh, there's a certain rider that's gonna ride it apparently and gonna win it. So
we're going to see the battle we wanted to see.
Yeah, I mean, is it confirmed that Roglic will be there? I'm not sure.
Last time I spoke to Yves, he said that Roglic was planning to be there, so don't know if it's confirmed yet.
We're gonna have another battle between Remco Evenepoel and Roglic, which is like the duo of the last year, including the Vuelta from last year. Like, they've just been looking for each other in all these races. I love it.
Bram, last week we had another domestic milestone as we launched the subscriptions on Twitter. But what exactly can subscribers expect from us?
So the core of it is on-demand services. So if our subscribers want to see a Domestique live on demand that we don't usually plan, they can ask it of us and we'll do it, if available, of course, as well as data analysis by Dieter or a specific race preview by a preview writer, or sprint analysis even. So basically, if you want content from us, ask and we will supply.
Despite having exams, our data analyst Dieter is joining me as well today, talking about some dedication. How are the exams going, Dieter?
Tomorrow I have my first one, but I think it's going to be okay.
So you're totally ready?
Yeah.
All right, it's time to talk about topics that are more interesting than studying, of course. Let's start with the Critérium de Dauphiné, where the French are ruling the race. Stage 1, it was a heartbreak for Rune Hergots. Bram, you screamed.
Yeah. Oh, that was so horrible. 10 meters, it very rarely comes so close to the line, and Jumbo had to use their entire team, even Vingegaard, to catch Rune. That was just incredible. Of course, he had some advantages with the wet weather in the descent, where he could take some extra time on the peloton. But Jumbo having to use their whole team to bring him back I was so heartbroken for him.
How should we rate the performance of Hergots, Dieter?
Hergots has done a lot of very good performances. I was mind blown by his in February or end January by his 20-minute test, but also 1-minute test. It was, if I recall correctly, between 11 and 12 watts per kilo. That's good for a good puncher. I didn't know Rune had that in him. So it's he has very good watts from the short efforts until the really long efforts. Yesterday was a good level, of course. Otherwise, you don't ride the peloton to shambles. But it's not the peak level of Rune. But that's also logical because I think the Dauphine is not the main goal. It's working up to those bigger goals. So the level is those few watts underneath the top level.
It was quite surprising to hear Hergots after the finish. The guy said he wasn't that disappointed. He said, I can only be happy with this performance. I couldn't have done it better. So was that a surprise to you, or?
I mean, yeah, I would expect him to be deeply disappointed. Like, he just missed out on the win. But he could, like, make it seem like, okay, yeah, all good. No hard feelings. He even said, well, they had to use the entire Jumbo team to catch me, so I see that as a compliment. That's incredible. But you also can't forget, I think he was meant to ride the Giro and dropped out before that due to a COVID infection. So he's just getting back into racing. So having this back as his sort of comeback race, and I think we'll see good stuff of him in the Tour.
After all, it was the first yellow jersey for Christophe Laporte after winning Gent-Wevelgem and Dwars door Vlaanderen. It's now a stage win in Critérium du Dauphiné. Was that surprising to you, the name of Christophe Laporte? I don't think so.
No, I think he was definitely one of the pre-race favorites. The race was a little bit harder than that was initially thought, I think, because we saw a lot of people saying Vernon could win potentially. But bringing back that break at the end sort of really ripped it up, and I think only about 35 riders were in the final bunch. I don't have the exact number, but
yeah, even a few GC riders lost some time. I think Enric Mas lost a few seconds, and some other names as well.
Just goes to show how hard of a chase that was.
What were you saying, Dieter?
I thought Mas lost some time in the descent or something, but I read an interview that he actually blew up in the last kilometer or something. So that's not good with the eyes on the Tour. It's getting pretty close.
Just the kilometer that Vingegaard was pulling on the front, that's when Mas threw up. That's not good.
I already mentioned it.
Speaking for Vuelta again.
The French are ruling the race so far. After Laporte in stage 1, it was time for Julien Alaphilippe. That was a long time ago we saw him.
I mean, he did win a race at the start of the season, a smaller French race.
Was it Von Ardèche or?
Could be, or the Drôme Classic.
Yeah, one of
those two. The opening weekend in France, one of those races. Yeah, I mean, that is against a lot of French riders, but here it's the Dauphiné. It's World Tour level, lots of big names, and him winning it in a sprint is not something that we're really used to. But it had been a pretty hard day out. But he just had a lot left in his legs. I did love his celebration.
Yeah. What's your opinion about that?
Oh, I loved it. At first, when I saw him cross the line and he made a celebration move, I was like, calm down, because there's still people right behind you. I have flashbacks to Liège-Bastogne-Liège. But seeing it in the replay, it's just calm down, guys, calm down. Everything's okay.
You think that's the meaning of the celebration? It's all okay with me? Don't panic?
I think so. I didn't
is
hear
it about
the interview
the criticism
afterwards.
On the team?
Not sure if it's about the team or him specifically. There has been a lot of criticism about his own performance. I think this was a really good way of showcasing, don't need to worry about me. I'm fine.
Alaphilippe was quite impressive, but so was Jonas Vingegaard. He was the lead out for Christophe Laporte in the final kilometers. And he did it pretty well.
Yeah, too well. Terry, he cut the legs of Laporte there, I think. That was really so. But yeah, he had to ride it hard, because I still don't know who the EF rider was. But that was a really strong attack. I don't know if you guys know. But, I couldn't see the number on the back, and the commentators didn't know as well, so I still don't know it.
I think the commentators said it was Quinn, but I'm not sure. I didn't see the number either. But yeah, Vingegaard doing what Remco's done for Jakobsen. So
yeah, well, I talked about that after the race to Yves. He said, yeah, I don't understand what Vingegaard is doing there. He thought it was a rather stupid move. Then I compared it to Remco, who did it as well for his sprinter in the past. But then he said, yeah, you can't compare the person of Vingegaard to Remco. We don't know if he likes that. He likes doing that. So could it be an extra effort in the build-up to Tour de France, doing the lead-out?
I think it's one of those things where it's not a goal for him to win this race. He's said that, the goal is the Tour. So if he can help the team get a couple of wins, then he'll do his work. And with Jumbo, we've definitely seen that, except for at Strade Bianche, all those riders go through hell for each other. So now is Vingegaard a chance to prove that he will do the same for his riders. We've seen Wout give wins to Laporte. We've seen incredible teamwork from them. So seeing Vingegaard do the same is nice to see.
What's your opinion about that, Dieter?
The same as Pomtix actually. If he does that at Tour, I think like, what are you doing? But it's Dauphiné, so his teammates do a lot for him. It's a nice way to do something back. And also what you say about good training with the eye on the Tour, that also not so bad. Plus those short peaks, those intervals shorter than 5 minutes, that's good with the eye on the Tour too. So why not?
Yeah, it wasn't all happy, joy at Jumbo-Visma today. Kruijswijk crashed and abandoned the race with a broken collarbone and a pelvic fracture, which, I think we can say that totally means he won't start Tour de France. That brings Wilco Kelderman into play, I think.
Yep, it does.
Kruijswijk,
If he stays upright.
Yeah, he couldn't start Giro either after some bad luck. Now he can't start Tour de France. I hope he's not planning on going to Vuelta.
I mean, he probably will be. I think the team will definitely want him to ride a Grand Tour this year. But, that man has had some bad luck in the past couple of years.
Is it bad news for Jumbo-Visma as well, for the team?
I think I was very surprised not seeing Kelderman in the Tour de France team, and don't want to talk bad about Kruijswijk, but he's not good this year either. So I think it's better for the team that I think Kelderman is a higher level, can reach a higher level in the Tour as Kruijswijk, to be honest.
I know we don't need to talk about it, but I'm just asking it anyway. Is Roglic the next in line now?
They keep saying he's not. But how many riders do they have? They were even thinking about, should Kuss ride the Tour? But yeah, if one of them drops out now, and that's always the risk of announcing these things so early on.
Exactly.
If one of them drops out now, the rumors are going to be that Roglic is going to ride the Tour, or maybe even ride half a Tour. Who knows?
That's the problem with Jumbo. They are always the first to announce their team.
They announced it in January.
Yeah, exactly. That's asking for rumors.
It's like if
Go ahead.
If someone has to drop out, the only good climbers they have left that can ride the Tour are Vos and Roglic. So I don't know in what shape Vos is at the moment, but they don't have a lot of options then. So
Vos was on the list for Giro d'Italia as well, if I recall correctly. So, yeah, right. There's not only Dauphiné this week. Yesterday there was a race in Belgium as well, Brussels Cycling Classic, which was once again won by a French rider, Arnaud Demare this time. What they would think of the race. I think it was Sven-Erik Byström who attacked on Muur van Gerardsbergen. He was quite impressive, forcing a select group of around 20 riders to get away with the comeback kit, Binyam Girmay in there.
Yeah. I think I didn't see most of the race, but I think about 50 kilometers from the finish, I got a message. Derek G is in the front group. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll watch it now. Because, him on his comeback race, being in the front group and I think finishing top 10.
It was
in a
quite
sprint.
impressive to see because, like, the group of 20 riders left on Muur van Gerardbergen, but then there were only 2 riders to bridge the gap to that front group, and that was him and, I think, Kellen O'Brien.
Yes.
Yeah. So big engine.
He did.
Go ahead.
He did a top 10 at the Muur van Gerardsberg segment, Derek G. And that's the most popular segment of all Belgium, I think. It's very hard to get a top 10 there. The times are like very high level. He did 570 watts for 3 minutes. I can't comprehend how you can recover from the Giro he did in a week with flying 2 times. Crazy.
I think his level of recovery is insane. Like, otherwise you can't do that every day in the Giro and then a week later just do a performance like that in Belgium either.
Must be. So Arnaud Demare took the win. The question is he going to the Tour? And does David Gaudu want him in his team? That's the question.
Well, he's going to the Tour. Those are rumors, at least. Does David Gaudu want him there? No. But Gaudu is very obvious in what he thinks. Kind of love him for that. Josh will agree on that. He doesn't shy away from drama, and when he has something to say, he'll either say it or not say it in a way where everyone knows what he's thinking. So that's great.
That means Groupama FDG won't need Jonathan Wolters to have a fight during Tour de France.
Yeah, they were like, Pinot's also going to be there, I think. So
is he?
Apparently, there was a comment from Gaudu about it. So if they're bringing Gaudu, Demare, and Pinot, like that's a very unfocused team, I'd say.
Next topic, Tim Merlier. He didn't make it into that group of 20 riders, which was, I think, quite a shame. I don't know what happened to him, but I think he wasn't good enough to follow, or he was badly positioned. Anyway, his team couldn't close the gap. That raises the question, who should Soudal Quickstep bring to Tour de France? Is it Tim Merlier or is it Fabio Jacobsen?
As far as I know, they're bringing Jacobsen because he's been at the trainings camp. And I think Merlier has sort of publicly said that he doesn't really care about the Tour that much. Like, he prefers racing in Spain, he says. So I think he'll be more likely to go to the Vuelta, depending on Remco going there or not, because that's not certain yet. But I think we'll see Jacobsen at the Tour.
Looking at the list of sprinters now, going to Tour de France, who has the best cards, in your opinion?
I think that's a very difficult one, because a lot of the sprinters have not really been in good form. We've not seen one sprinter dominate for a number of races. We saw that in Giro as well.
I have a name in my mind that I think will dominate the field at Tour de France. Although the first week isn't really for sprinters, I think. Nevertheless, I think Jasper Philipsen will be big.
He is like a big engine. He doesn't like last year. The sprint on last year it was on the Champs-Élysées. He was like 5 kilometers an hour faster than the rest. Like, he just handles those 3 weeks so well in comparison with other sprinters. So he really stepped up his game last year. So I expect him to.
Exactly. Dieter, I asked you before this episode, what do you want to talk about? And then there was one thing you mentioned, Wout van Aert. Please explain.
He rode 4 race days back to back, and on the 4th day he won Gulligem Koersen, which maybe a lot of people who don't live in Belgium don't know, but that's like the highest level kermis race in Belgium, and those races are really hard. Don't underestimate that. Like the first race they rode Grand Prix Marcel Kuns in as Domestique for Quickstep. The day after he got third in Omloop Nieuwsblad U23. The day after he domestiqued in Ronde van Limburg, and then the 4th day he won Gulligem Koersen. So that's a really, really high level that you have if you can do that, and it's like only you under 23, so that's very impressive.
The day before Brussels Cycling Classic, I think, there was Haste Sepel, which was a victory for Olaf Kooi, and I think I think we all know Kooi wants to leave Jumbo-Visma and is going to leave the team at the end of this season. What do you think is his best option of all teams? Which team suits the guy pretty good?
Oh, that's a hard one.
Or are there any rumors yet?
I think there are some rumors about DSM and Trek. But I think with DSM you have a very strong and up-and-coming Welsford there. With Trek you have the Pedersen, who is, in my opinion, more of a Grand Tour sprinter, at least because he's more versatile.
And there's a big rumor going around Trek as well with Jonathan Milan.
Exactly.
The team gets a new sponsor, I think, as from the 1st of July, with Lidl. It won't be Trek Segafredo anymore. Changed to Lidl Trek, which brings an increased budget with the team as well. And the rumors are that Jonathan Milan and Tao Gegenhardt would go to the team.
I hadn't heard about Hart yet. Honestly, that would be very surprising for both of them. Although Milan has sort of lacked a proper lead out. His positioning's always been horrible. But I feel like that's a plague throughout the entire peloton. That sprinters' positioning is pretty horrible, and that more people should become lead outs instead of trying to become sprinters. But, well, each wants their own glory, I guess.
Dieter, you were pretty hyped about Tao Gegenhardt before Giro d'Italia. Is there a match with Little Trek?
I don't know. I like to see Tao Gegenhardt at Ineos. I don't want to. That's it. Don't want to talk bad about any riders, but I don't think Trek has a lot of top level Grand Tour riders. Like they have Ciccone, but it's not since Contador. I don't know. It's they're evolved. They evolved to a classics team a lot more last years. When I read it, I was like, don't know what to think of that.
Trek isn't the only team who has a move of sponsors. There's also Jumbo, who announced it will leave the world of cycling. Bram, you probably have an opinion on that. Is that dangerous for the future of the team, you think? Will it change anything?
I don't think so, that it will change anything. The team has always been quite international. They've not really been tied to a Dutch identity as they have been in the Rabobank years. Pretty much all of their leaders are not Dutch, and basically their domestiques are Dutch. So no, I am curious what kind of sponsor they're going to bring in. So I don't think that the team's at risk. The leadership has shown pretty well that they're able to manage with what they claim is a very small budget.
for Patrick Lefevere, for instance, has always complained about the fact he couldn't find any sponsors when needed. Do you think that will be the same for Jumbo-Visma?
No, I think Patrick Lefevere, although the great manager he is, in some of these sponsor conversations, maybe his personality isn't always his best friend. He does bring a little bit of controversy with him, whereas Jumbo is, they have a great reputation as managers as well.
Like Quickstep won a lot of classic races, of course, the last years, but winning the Tour as Jumbo does, and let's be honest, Vingegaard is probably going to be 1 or 2 this year. It's never sure, but it's a big chance, yes. That visibility that you get with that's every sponsor wants that, so I don't think they have any problems getting a new lead sponsor.
I mean, you do have that with Quickstep as well. Of course, they have Remco, who's going to be a star of the sport for the next couple of years, as is Vingegaard. So they both shouldn't have issues finding sponsors. It's a negotiation tactic as well, I guess.
I didn't hear Lefevere complaining about not finding sponsors since Remco, I think, so that also says a lot.
Oh no, he says it every year.
Next topic is quite a difficult one. There have been some problems with our young wolves, or former young wolves. Talking about Lennert Van Eetvelt and Shari Bossuyt. A few months ago, I think it was Lotto Destiny who put Lennert Van Eetvelt on non-active because of some doping rumors. I think that it was the case with the nose spray. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a nose spray that he's allowed to use, but he needs to say that he uses it. And he claims that he said it, but the doping controller didn't write it down, so it got flagged as a positive test. He got cleared. He's back to racing, back to winning even. So there's definitely a positive note on that story. He's definitely cleared his name, and honestly, it was a very bureaucratic thing where it's fine to use as long as you say it. And he had a doctor's note, so it was quite ridiculous.
Let's hope Shari Bossuyt will be able to clear her name as well. Last Sunday, I was in the car when I heard the news that she had tested positive for a substance called letrozole. I don't know how to pronounce it. It was the same substance that was found in a test of Toon Aerts, I think almost 2 years ago now, which means she's in big trouble, I think, as it's hard to prove.
Yeah, it's an even smaller amount than Toon Aerts had in his system. He already put out a statement saying he knew this was coming. That other positive tests are also going to follow because there is apparently something contaminated, something I don't know exactly what would be contaminated, but it's also weird.
It could be meat, for instance. I think I read a story this morning that both Toon Aerts and Shari Bossuyt tested positive after a race in Normandy. And then the story was that the substance is used in the farm industry with the cows. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but they use it more in that region than in others. And now the story goes that might be the reason of the positive tests. But as I said, it's hard to prove your innocence.
But at least now that there are 2 cases in the same region, there is the option to go and test for that. Because before that, it could have been anything. But now 2 positive cases in Normandy, both looking at meat. It's just very odd because there's been no positive tests on this substance, since Toon Aerts, I think. and then you just have it twice in that region, twice with Belgian riders as well. It's very odd.
Let's hope Shari can prove her innocence as soon as possible, and that she doesn't have to wait as long as Toon Aerts, because if that's more than a year and a half, then her Olympic dream will be ruined, I guess. Dieter, you would like to add something to this topic?
Yeah, that is just so ridiculous. Like the UCI has a lot of as a like a beneath level. If you go test positive but beneath that level, there's no problem. For a lot of substances they have that, but not for letrozole. Like the amount that was found with Toon Aerts was already that small that it doesn't do anything for performance. That's known to mankind. And in Bossuyt's blood it was even less. Why is it looked at as a positive doping test? And this doesn't have a positive effect on performance, but it does ruin the athlete's life. So like, we don't understand it.
We can only hope the future brings some good news on that matter. Let's end this episode on a positive note. Let's talk data. Let's talk about unbound gravel. Dieter, that's your territory, I think. Do you have any interesting insights when it comes to data and gravel?
I think the gravel level is very underrated. Lauwersenam rode basically 10 hours. It's just over 300 watts, which is like crazy. I can't do that for 20 minutes at the moment. So that's crazy. Like, for example, Larry Warbes rode a Giro and he went to Unbound, but he just, couldn't follow the leading group. That explains how hard the level is. That's a current World Tour pro who comes out of the Giro with super compensation. He couldn't follow. That says enough about how crazy the level is. So you really don't need to underestimate. That's crazy.
Did anyone see the picture of Thijs Sonneveld and his knee? That was nasty.
I saw it, and I regret to say, well, I don't regret saying it. I reported that tweet because nobody needs to see that. I don't think it should be on Twitter. But yeah, that's just disgusting.
Was his kneecap broken?
I think he tore a tendon. There was no fracture, as far as I know.
Jan Bakelands was there as well for the first time. He ended up in 14th place. And I saw him at the feed zone. He was getting an ice bath. Yeah, that race is cool.
he put his feet in an ice bath and he said it worked very good. Like also mainly his the muscles from his calves, I think. And he said it worked very good. And after that stop, he could ride hard again. But I read that Thijs Sonneveld said that Jan Bakelands was very impressive and that he should be in the leading group. But after 20 kilometers, there was a crazy mud section and everyone needed to run. But Jan Bakelands tried to ride through it. And that blocked his whole chain and his drivetrain and everything. And he hadn't, a lot of riders have like a wooden spattle to clean their bikes because they know that. But Jan Bakelands doesn't have experience in gravel, so he had to clean everything with his hands and he lost a lot of time there. So that fucked up his race, sadly.
So he could have done better.
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
All right. I'm out of topics unless you guys want to add something, and the floor is for Bram.
All right. Well, that's a wrap for today's Domestique Cycling Podcast. A big thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, consider supporting us on Ko-Fi or Twitter. And if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
I've got the spots, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.